everyone, a warm welcome to Wisdom from North. My name is Jannica, and today I have an incredible guest on the show, Dr. John DeMartini. John is considered one of the world's leading authorities on human behavior and personal development. But when John was a little child, he was diagnosed with learning disabilities, and his school teacher told him to go into sports because he said he wouldn't be able to go into academia because he wouldn't be able to read or write or communicate properly. Well, today he's traveling the world 360 days a year. He has founded the Demartini Method and Institute. He has been on several films, including The Secret, and he has written over 40 books. It's amazing, John. It's an honor having you here on my show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I heard one of your talks. You said that you might be one of those who had the most talks in the whole world, and you might be getting into the Guinness Record Book. Is that right?
I did 426 speeches in 60 countries one year. This year I'm probably just under 400. So I love speaking, and I keep a busy schedule. So yeah, I know the record was much less than that, but I don't know what the exact number is now. So,
I mean, that's amazing. That tells me that this is something you love to do, and this is part of your mission. And I wanted to speak to you about mission in life and purpose, because I do strongly believe, I have a sense that we all have a mission and a purpose. What is your take on that, and how can we find that mission?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm confronted with that question weekly because of the programs that I do. Every human being, regardless of age, creed, color, sex, gender, etc., lives by a set of priorities, a set of values, things that are most important to least important in their life. And whenever they are living congruently and in alignment with the highest value, the thing that's most important to them, they are spontaneously inspired from within to fulfill that. Some people call it the calling. The ancient Greeks called the highest value the telos, and the study of that teleology, which is a study of meaning and purpose. So every human being has something they feel is most meaningful, most inspiring, and is most purposeful for them, and it's this highest value. Now that may be in business, that may be in family rearing, that may be in social, political, or spirituality, or fitness, or just intellectual pursuits. But whatever is most important, truly most meaningful, whatever's highest on their value list, the thing that nobody has to remind them to do or motivate them to do from the outside, there's having a calling from within to do it. That's the purpose. And everybody has it. But what happens is people sometimes compare themselves to other people and put other people on pedestals. And they perceive themselves as not owning and having what they see in others. They're too humble to admit what they see in others inside them. And they minimize themselves to others and exaggerate others and make heroes, you might say, and admired people out of them. And then inject some of those values of others into their life and then try to live by other people's values, which clouds the clarity of their own knowing of what is truly most meaningful to them. That's why it's Emerson, the philosopher, said, envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. And Albert Einstein said, my contempt for authority is what made me one. We're not here to live in the shadows of anyone. We're here to stand on the shoulders of giants. And when we live by our highest values, we fulfill and express our purpose.
So you have to focus your attention in a way to then focus on yourself, because not always do you know what your values are. You're not so conscious about it. So I feel like you need to really ask some questions. What are my values? And maybe focus your attention of yourself, not everybody else, I guess.
Well, I created a value determination process because our lives determine and display or demonstrate our values. So if we look carefully at what we do spontaneously, it's obvious. For instance, nobody has to remind me to get up and research and teach. I do it every day. But somebody would have to motivate me from the outside to go cook or do domestic duties. It's just not my thing. So what I do to help a person determine what their values are, which I do in my Breakthrough Experience program, is ask them these questions. What specifically do you really truly fill your space with? What's in your space? Because things that are not important you push away, and things that are important you keep around you. The second determinant is how do you spend your time? You find time for things really important to you, and you run out of time for those things that aren't. The third thing is what energizes you. When you're doing something that you really love that's high in your values, it energizes you. You have more energy at the end of the day than when you started. The fourth thing is what do you find money for and spend your money on? You find money for things that are really valuable to you and run out of money for things that don't. And then you look at where you're most ordered and organized. And then you look at where you're most disciplined, reliable, and focused. Then you look at what you think about, visualize about, talk to yourself about, and talk to others about most. And then you look at what inspires you and brings a tear of inspiration to you when you actually are doing it or thinking about it or looking at people that do it. Then you look at what are the most consistent, persistent goals that you set that you're actually achieving. And then you look at what it is you can't wait to read, study, learn, or listen to about most. And if you compile that and answer that, 3 answers per each question, you'll end up with, of those 13 questions, 39 answers. And if you look at which one of those answers showed up most frequent, second most frequent, etc., you can literally hierarchize them and put them into an order, and it'll demonstrate what's really important to you, what's most important to least important in your life. And once you do that, it's wise to prioritize your life and delegate lower priority things and get on with doing the things that are most important so you can have fulfillment in life. That's the secret of fulfillment.
So do you think there is a perfect balance in life, that we all have the ability to do what we want in this world? I mean, somebody has to do some of the jobs, I'm thinking. That and we all can't be actors and models, or I don't think that everyone wants to be that. But do you think that there's a perfect balance there, that everyone wants to do different things, so it's this beautiful puzzle, you know?
Well, I really believe in the social structure that everybody has the potential to live congruently and in alignment with their highest values. But the mastery of that is a journey. And so as long as we compare ourselves to other people and subordinate to others, we'll probably cloud what's really important to us. And as a result of that, we'll probably have to go through, as they say, kissing a few toads before you find your prince. You'll have a few jobs that you'll have to refine to get clear about what you're up to. But some people at a very young age know. I know 6-year-olds that know what they're wanting to do and become excellent at very young ages. And teenagers that are very clear. I was clear at 17 when I knew what I wanted to do, what I'm doing today. So some people are going to get aware of that and be clear about it at an earlier age. And some people have to work their way up the clarity ladder. Mm-hmm. And society needs somebody at all levels. Mm. I worked with a gentleman who was a ditch digger when I was a young boy. And his mission and dream was, he said, I have the most important job in the world because I bring water and life to people throughout the community. Mm. Without me bringing the pipes from the main into the house, nobody has life. So I have the most important job in the city. Mm. And his mission was to be a ditch digger. So you can be inspired by pretty well anything if it aligns with what's really meaningful to you. Mm. It's all about perception. So yes, majority of people, the majority, have a cloudedness and unclarity about what it is, and they have to go through some trials and errors and to eventually discover what's meaningful to them, and some may never do it. But if a little effort is put, on my website, drdemartini.com, there's a questionnaire a person can fill out to determine what their values are. It's free. All they have to do is go on there and just pull it down. But by doing that, it increases the probability of looking at what your life demonstrates is really important to you, and then starting to orchestrate your life. Mastering the art of delegating lower priority things and surrounding yourself with people who are inspired to do those things is liberty, because it gives you the power to go and do the things that are truly meaningful to you. And this is the art and mastery of life. Now, some people have difficulty believing that they can produce and make an income to hire people to help them. But it's inevitable that that's essential if you want to be able to liberate yourself from lower priority activities every day.
Yeah, so when you find your mission, it doesn't mean that it won't be hard work, because I mean there's so many who has a dream of being an artist or an actor, you know, and there are just too many actors, and a lot of them has to do other jobs because they can't pay the rent. So yeah, that's part of my struggle with doing your destiny, because I've seen so many being heartbroken because they can't, follow their destiny and their dreams.
Well, there's a distinction that I want to make. That if it's truly high in your values, you will endure pain and pleasure in the pursuit of it, and you will let nothing on the face of the earth stop you, because you'll feel it's destiny. But if it's a fantasy, now I've been teaching the breakthrough experience to 250,000 people now over the last 25 years, and a very high percentage of people live in a fantasy. They live with a delusion about what's important to them. Oh. And they live in these unrealistic expectations, and they beat themselves up and have fears and all kind of nightmares about their life because they're not setting what's really true to what their life demonstrates. Let me give you an example. I asked about 5,000 people recently, how many of you would love to be financially independent? Every hand. And I said, how many of you are financially independent? All but 7 hands went down. And I said, out of 5,000 people, 7 people here are financially independent. And it's only 0.312% in the United States that make it. So that means that most people, 99% of the people, live in a fantasy. And then they beat themselves up because they don't have the values that will lead there. See, a person who is wealthy and becomes financially independent has a set of values that are unique. They would rather save and invest their money and put their money towards things that appreciate long-term and have a long-term vision than immediate gratification and buying depreciables and consumables. So a person that has a higher value on buying consumables and depreciables and living the lifestyles of the rich and famous isn't going to be rich and famous. So they have to understand what their values are and not live in a delusion about it, or otherwise they'll beat themselves up with anger and aggression, blame and betrayal, criticism and challenge, and despair and depression. The ABCDs of negativity are byproducts of setting unrealistic expectations and fantasies as goals. So in the breakthrough experience, I help people get clear on what their values are, and then we give them 2 choices, because you can only have fulfillment by either setting goals that match true values, highest values, or changing values to match goals. So we then decide, do you want to tweak the values? Because there's a science of that. Or do we want to tweak the goals? Either way is fine, but there's a work involved, because unless there's congruency, there's no fulfillment. Because setting goals that aren't yours are self-defeating. And so many people have fantasies. I want to be the movie star or whatever, but they don't have any track record, and there's no demonstration in their value determination that really leads to that. So they have to get real about what their life demonstrates, what's really important. Because if it's truly important, you will endure pain and pleasure in the pursuit of it. You won't let anybody or anything around you stop you. That's when the voice and the vision on the inside becomes stronger than all opinions and obstacles on the outside, which is what masters a life.
Oh, okay. I think I'm getting it. That to me, I'm translating it as the ego saying something you want, but the inner you knows what's really valuable to you, but you have to do some work to perhaps get there for some people.
You have to shed the illusions and the masks and personas that you wear that distract you from the magnificence of the real being that's inside you. Many of us have outer shells, and we haven't got to the core of what we're really dedicated to. But the second we do, I met with a guy last night. I just finished doing the breakthrough experience last night. And there was a guy there, 60 years old. And he says, I've been banging my head against the wall, striving for what I thought was important for the last 17 years. He says, but then something inspired me one night, and I got focused on what was really important. Wow. And the doors of opportunity just opened up. And it's like, I can't believe how many things have happened in a matter of 7 months now that I've got really clear what it's really about. I've been trying to be somebody I'm not. See, the magnificence of who we are far exceeds any fantasies we'll ever impose on ourselves.
Wow.
And accessing that is more important than probably anything else in your life. That's why I focused on that in the program, because I know that if they get that, they won't need motivation on the outside. That's not, because anybody that needs motivation on the outside to do what they're here to do, they're setting goals that isn't really what they want to do.
Right.
Because I don't need motivation. I've never needed motivation for 42 years.
Wow.
So if you're having to require motivation, if you're having to readjust yourself all the time, if you're feeling all these emotions and self-depreciating systems, it's because you're setting goals that aren't yours. Or you're projecting unrealistic expectations on others to live outside their values. One of the two.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's talk about magnificence, because in these breakthrough experiences, you are transforming a lot of people and finding their light. And how can we find that magnificence? I mean, see only the opposite, that people are talking down on themselves, and I feel it in myself. I just did an interview this morning and I felt I didn't do well. I was so tired, it was too early, and I beat myself up about it. And then I felt like, okay, I'm going to speak to you about being magnificent, but how can I believe that I'm magnificent when I'm not performing well, you know?
Well, there's an old proverb that says, take no credit, take no blame, just focus on chief aim. The name of the game is thank you, I love you. So I always say that it's wise if we go and exaggerate our outcomes and set up fantasies and unrealistic expectations, we're going to self-depreciate. And that self-depreciation is not a bad thing. See, we have this fantasy that we're supposed to get rid of all the negatives and only be positive, but that's delusion. The negative part of ourself is not something to get rid of. The negative part of ourselves is trying to let us know that we're setting goals and fantasies and unrealistic expectations without having the strategies or the skills or the structures or the time frames that are real. Because the second you set a real goal in real time that's really aligned with your values, you don't build yourself up with fantasy and feel all elated. You don't beat yourself up with anxiety and fear. You just move forward and plod along doing what you love to do, and you tap dance to work, as Warren Buffett describes. You do what you love. So if I'm beating myself up, it's because I need a readjustment in the goals that I'm setting. And they're trying to let me know that I either don't have the strategy to reach the goal that I have, I've set unrealistic time frames on it, I'm not setting realistic expectations on the strategy, it needs refining, and I'm basically putting an expectation, or maybe I'm puffing myself up and thinking I'm supposed to be something I'm not, and it's grounding me and getting me real. Because the second I get real and get congruent again, the high and the low dissolve, and I'm centered again, and I'm back in being me. And that's where the true power is being just you, not exaggerating yourself with pride, not putting yourself down with shame. Because I always say that is the second you puff yourself up, you have to beat yourself up to be yourself. The second you exaggerate fantasies and goals that are unrealistic, you have to beat yourself up with phobias and fears to let you know, get real and set real goals in real time. And the second you do, you don't feel that way. You feel inspired to get on to action because you have a strategy that's clear in your mind.
So it's about taking off the mask and just be yourself all the time. And I guess you have to find what yourself is, and then we come back to the values again. And
well, the highest value is the identity. The study of ontology, the study of being and becoming, revolves around what's highest value. And the highest value is the end in mind of the telos, the teleology. And so if we know ourselves epistemologically, and we are ourselves ontologically, and we basically fulfill ourselves teleologically, we do what the Delphic Oracle said, know thyself, be thyself, love thyself. That's the secret of mastery. And that's why finding out what's really important to you and setting goals that are congruent with that, right, and not fantasies. I just got a business plan from somebody, and they set up a business plan that was completely off the charts and frankly ridiculous. And so I'm now going to have to go on them and slam their fantasy and bring them down to reality. And they're having anxieties and they're having fears, and they're because they've set up an unrealistic expectation. So we're going to go in and do diligence. And I always say that if you have a due diligent plan about how you want your life and you master plan, you see things in detail. You know what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, etc. And you don't have all the anxiety. It's when you set up a fantasy and you don't have a clear pathway in your mind on how to do it. I always say that any detail you leave out of the plan in life is an obstacle you face in your life. And the obstacle is there as a feedback to get you to be more clear and more concise and more real and more authentic. So everything in our life is trying to get us to be authentic.
But then I get confused about the teachings of law of attraction. I mean, the law of attraction, as I understand it, we can focus on where we want to go and don't focus on the details, and it will manifest because we believe in it. Like if this guy believed in this plan, I mean, wouldn't that be enough?
Yeah, but the problem with that model, and I confront that model because of this, because I know all the people in The Secret, and it's not quite that simple. That's nice, and it sounds really nice, but that's not the way it really works. So let me just explain something here. if I asked you, I've done this on, God, 100,000 people, because they tell me just focus on the vision. And I said, so tell me the vision. And it's nebulous. It's not clear because they haven't thought it through.
Oh.
That's why the planning is to get clear on the vision so you see it in detail in your mind's eye without all the question. Now, once that's clear and you don't have any anxiety because you know how you're going to get there, now you let it go because you're clear. And now what happens is all kind of opportunities that you didn't have before come that are probably more transcendent and more amazing than even the plan. So you don't attach the plan, but you do the plan so you can see it clearly in your mind so you know how you can get there, so there's no anxiety because that undermines the plan. But you don't attach the plan and go, oh, it's the only way I can do it is this plan and get stuck there. But you do the planning. I had a lady that's sitting there on the fence with this job. She wanted to start a new career. And we sat down and we did a few planning, 2 hours of planning, thinking it out. Exactly who the market was, who is she going to go after, what is the prices, what is she going to do to produce this thing, how is she going to do it, where is she going to do it, when she's going to do it. As she did this, she leaned back and got tears in her eyes. She says, I see it now. I said, now you have a clear vision.
And then she felt it as well, because it's important to feel.
Now she's got the power of the law of attraction now. But when I ask them, I asked people, I had about 500 people at a talk recently, and I said, there's a leadership conference. And everybody there, I said, how many of you here to be a leader? They all put hands up. I said, great, let's find out how many is true. So I walked down in the audience and said, what are you going to lead? Who are you going to lead? What's the leadership? Tell me what it is. If you don't know what it is, how are you going to be a leader? Let's go. Tell me. And all of a sudden, people froze.
Yeah.
I said, unless you have a clear idea of what this thing is that you're going to lead, you have a fantasy. So you have to get clear on what that is that you're going to lead and where you're going to go. That's why the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask, because questions clarify vision. And questions, if they're congruent with values, clarify mission and message. And when you have a clear vision, your message becomes congruent. So I confront the idea of just fantasy. But some people think, well, I just want to have, I want $1 million. I said, really? So they go out to their mailbox every day and they keep looking for $1 million. And I said, could you consider maybe trying to work to earn some money and serve people? Because if you serve people, you have a higher probability of getting $1 million. And then what are you going to do? I have people all the time that say they want to be financially independent. I said, really? So what is your net worth? Oh, I don't know. What exactly does it take to have financial independence? How much passive investment income do you need? I don't know. How much interest rate you plan on having? I don't know. Well, how much are you going to need every year and every month to live on? Don't know. I said, well, then you're not really serious about being financially independent. You're living in a fantasy and you're going to beat yourself up and years are going to go by and you're still not going to get your outcome. So it's real. The second you get real and you know where you're starting and you know where you're going and you have a strategy and you see it in your mind, then the power of a clear vision starts the law of attraction in motion.
And that's where the magic begins.
That's where, no, you still have to serve people. There's no service, there's no money.
There's no what?
Excuse me? You don't expect money to come in unless you're doing some sort of service somewhere.
Oh, so it's not only yourself, you have to serve
financially independent. I've worked very diligently for 42 years doing teaching, right? But I'm financially independent. I'm a very wealthy man. But I didn't do that by just fantasizing. I did that by methodically going into a financial institution, setting up an automatic withdrawal account for my bank, putting a savings in there and increasing those savings 10% for every single 3 months. It went up 10% for 30 years. And then I went out there and served and figured out how to become more efficient in my business and found out how to serve more people and how to do marketing. And I've been working and putting teams together. We have tons of people helping us. That's how I became financially independent. Not by fantasizing, but getting down and doing real work, really service for real people, and structuring it and planning it and doing what it takes to get there.
Yeah, that's great. That's really helpful. Because I do so many interviews and I get confused sometimes. And but I guess that's that's life. That's why we're here learning.
The best thing to do is look at results.
Now
I live on a ship called the world. Okay, it's a very beautiful condominium ship that circumnavigates the earth. And there's a lot of wealthy people on there. Okay, there's 80 of us that own the ship, and most everybody there has a lot of money. Okay, there's a lot of billionaires that live under. I don't know of one of them that just fantasized about something. They all run big companies. They all serve vast numbers of people. They're very philanthropic. They're going out and doing amazing things. They've done very diligent work in there. Plus, they've learned the art of visualizing and the art of internal dialogue, plus the art of communicating, inspiring people, helping people fulfill needs, clearly planning things out. Those are individuals that are leaders in their field because of that. Not because they fantasize, because so many people have fantasies, but because they got grounded with clear vision, clear messages, clear transactions and strategies to get clear outcomes. Yeah. That's what makes big business. I can't imagine Donald Trump building an 80-story building with just fantasies. He did it by having a professionals surrounding him that are architectural designs with lots of errors and corrections and everything else and planning and working and things, and then bankers. He worked at that. But they didn't build a great pyramid that way either. They had to plan it.
But I must say that that's the impression I get from that film, The Secret, though, that it's much easier. I mean, I hear now a kind of another angle of it. And
even Rhonda Byrne, who put The Secret together, she didn't just fantasize it. She strategically got 33 people that already had networks of millions of people in their database to make sure they're in the thing, to make sure that they would help market it, right, to make sure that they got the top Vivitas DVD planning person together, the top person involved in networking stuff, the top person in production. This wasn't just random. This was thought through, and it took thousands of hours of work to put that movie together. So I don't think it's fair to have people live in a fantasy that they're just going to visualize jewels popping on their neck and stuff. I think that's unrealistic.
Yeah. And I think there are more laws of the universe, too. It's not just law of attraction.
No, it's called the law of perspiration, too.
But I'd love to ask you one last question that it's a bit important to me, because I've started thinking about family relationships. And now we're in July and a lot of people are going on vacation, and I noticed that every family has issues. And of course I have issues in my family, and I'm wondering, like, you're, an expert on human behavior. Like, even though you know why your mother or father or brother or uncle is annoying you, and you know that about yourself, it's about this and that, you still, get triggered. How can we deal with this? How can we get a better flow and better relationships to our family members?
Well, the wisest thing I know to do, I've developed a method called the Demartini Method, and it's basically a series of questions to help transform perception. So when I have somebody do something that pushes my button, which is regular, it's part of life.
Yeah.
I stop and I ask, so what specifically is the trait, action, or inaction that they've done that I'm most upset about? What specifically did they do? And I narrow it down so it's not nebulous. It's not just a label. It's a very precise thing that they did. Were they disrespectful? Did they criticize? Did they humiliate? Did they reject? Did they annoy? Did they ignore me? What did they do? Then I ask the simple question, where and when do I demonstrate that? To who do I demonstrate that? And who sees me do that? And I own that trait. And I don't stop until I can see that I've done that trait 100%. Because the seer, the seeing, and the seen are always the same. Whatever I see in them is me. Because they're just reminding me of a part of me that I'm judging inside, and they're bringing it out of me to help me grow. That's the second thing. The third thing is I ask, since it's never what happens to us, it's how we perceive it, I ask, how specifically is this trait, this behavior, serving me? What's it doing for me? Is it making me more assertive? Is it allowing me to speak up? Is it dealing with my repressions? Is it making me wake up to my own illusion about who I am? Is it making me basically be able to orchestrate and prioritize things? Is it making me communicate more effectively? Is it making me more considerate in their values? I got to find out how it serves me, because once I see the benefits equaling the drawbacks, I'm not hooked. There's no trigger there.
Oh.
I'm just grateful. Then I go and find out, if they hadn't have done that, what would have been the drawback? Would I have passed up a learning experience? Would I not learn how to be assertive and communicate? Would I not reflect on myself? And once I go through those 4 questions, I'm already softening some of my reaction. Then I ask, whatever they're doing, I look for where somebody's doing the opposite, because there's always a pair of opposites in our perceptions. And I find out where that is, and when I do, I see more of a balanced orientation. Then instead of reacting to them, I act. And I'm more poised instead of poisoned, and I'm more heartful instead of hurtful. And when I do, I'm more likely to be able to give a response to them that doesn't create another chain reaction in them. And we'd be able to dialogue through it and come out with a solution on how we can resolve this where we both win.
Okay, so it's is it always about ourselves? Because I mean, we're doing this, but it's
judgment. I've never seen it. In the breakthrough experience, I've been doing this for a quarter of a century now, and I've taken 250,000 people through it. I've never seen a reaction that somebody else can trigger in you that you don't have inside yourself. Because you can't get lemon out of anything but a lemonade out of anything but a lemon. You can't do it. You have your button. It's your button. It's not about them. William James said, in Father of Modern Psychology, that the greatest discovery of our generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their perceptions and attitudes of mind.
Right.
So it's never what happens to us. Nothing. I mean, I've worked with every imaginable thing people have faced. It's never what happens to it. It's all about our perception and what we decide and what we act on. So we can't blame things on the outside. We can't say and label people, well, they're this or they're that. Just go and find out how is what they're doing serving us. How do we use it to our advantage? So we're running our lives, not them.
That's just amazing. I listened to one of your interviews, and you said there that you had been going through the Oxford Dictionary and found all the traits, and you saw that you had them all, and it was like 3,000 or 4,000 different words.
It was 4,628 traits. What I did is I noticed in my life many years ago, in my 20s, because I'm 60 now. In my 20s, I noticed that every time I was judging somebody and pointing my finger at somebody, I found out that I had it. So instead of me sitting there and having to wait for the world to push all my buttons, I figured I might just go to the dictionary and go and circle every human trait that human beings have that are positive and negative. Then I went in there, and after I circled them, I went to each one, and I thought, who do I know that has the most extreme example of this trait? So who in my life, throughout my whole life, is the most extreme example of honest or dishonest or cruel or mean or lying or whatever it may be? And then I went in there and I said, all right, this is the person. I wrote it next to the word. And then I asked, where and when do I demonstrate the trait till I see it as much as I see in them? And I found every single trait, 4,620 traits inside myself. I was honest, I was dishonest, I was nice, I was mean, I was kind, I was cruel, I was open and closed and stingy and generous. I was every single thing I found at different moments in my life. Once I did, it humbled me, and it made me realize if I can't love all those parts, I can't love me.
Wow.
I got to love them all, because I've never gotten rid of them. Everything that I thought I'd gotten rid of in my life always surfaced again, so I never got rid of any trait, but I might as well love it. And the moment I loved it, the people around me didn't push my buttons.
And you're able to love it?
I found a value to every one of them, because they would have gone extinct if they didn't serve humanity. Anything that doesn't serve humanity goes extinct. We know that in evolution and biology. So if those traits are there, they serve a purpose. We are just ignorant to see the purpose sometimes. Our job is to become awakened, not ignorant, to see how they serve us and use them to our advantage.
That's so interesting. Wow, thank you so much. This was, to me, that was true wisdom and very helpful. Thank you for taking time, and I know you have to go, and good luck with everything. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and much light from Oslo and Houston. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.